it's that event was adapted from a play, but that event actually did take place in real life,
Yeah.
right? So, I don't like, how much do you know about what took place? And
So the question is, how much do I know now versus how much do I know at the time of the movie? I didn't realize it was based on a play, but then about halfway through the movie, I was like, man, this feels a lot like a stage play. So I
right,
Googled, and
right,
then it made way more sense, the
right,
setup for the plot. And then
right,
afterwards, I did a bunch of Googling because I was wondering, is this a fictional
right,
imagining of what these four would
right.
be talking like, or did it actually happen? And I found out it actually happened, but that's all I knew. So you knew about this going into it.
I did, yeah. So, well, it's yeah, like I knew bits and pieces. What this did is fleshed out what made, because so pretty much, and you tell me if this is what you read, but pretty much I had knew that, of course, Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, they were close. And then, at that time, black leaders, just, there weren't that many of them. So, typically they all kind of knew each other. And so I knew they were all at this fight. I knew that they all did get together at a hotel in Miami, but there, like the extent of what happened at that hotel, no one really knew that, right? Like everyone knows, yeah, they got together. Everyone kind of knows, there was like, one of the things, like, there's ice cream that was involved. Like that was like, there were like bits and pieces and clues, and, different autobiographies had come out. And so, people, started to put together, well, what could have happened? What were they talking about? And so for me, this really fleshed out, what may have gone on in that room. It just didn't need to be that long, especially with a movie that's driven pretty much just off of dialogue.
I think it
Um,
helps. I think if people go into it, it's worth knowing that it's a play and that you
right,
basically, aside from the setup and introductions, if you're okay with watching a conversation for an hour to an hour and a half, that's, to me, it's a riveting conversation. But I think it helps to know the plot and everything is
yeah.
shot like it's a play.
But overall, I like the movie. I enjoyed it. I think Regina King did a really good job directing. Um, and I think that the strongest point for me was just seeing the dynamic of watching Malcolm X weigh his choice of leaving the Nation of Islam, um, while
Was
also
that your
trying.
favorite aspect of the movie?
That was by far, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. What, just watching, and I mean, honestly, like if I had to say there was a main character or like a main story point, I would say that's probably what it was. That aspect of him leaving the Nation of Islam and having to trying to recruit Muhammad Ali, and just that conflict of when's the right time to tell him that I'm recruiting you, but for a specific reason. And
It's a slow build up because it's one of those things that the audience has already put together, but the
right,
characters in the movie haven't put it together yet. So
right.
it's like, what's that going to be like when that drops?
Yeah. So overall, I enjoyed it. It's a movie that I would definitely watch again. It's a movie that I would let my kids watch. It's a good historical movie, that I think will always have a place in history, right? I think it falls under, you know, um, Black historical movies and just American historical movies, just, helping people learn about the events of the past. So
And
that's
honestly,
that's what I.
I heard a couple of people mention that, oh, it's a very timely movie, like for modern times. And I had to say
Yeah,
I agreed with it because the interesting part, and we're never going to be like an overly political show, but this is probably as political as we're going to get. What was interesting to me was the fact of you've got these four African American men at the top of their game. Most of them just want to go out and have a good time. They want to have a party. One of them wants to sit and talk about what our role in society needs to be and what should we be doing with our time and our money and our political sway and just our fame and popularity. So those are a lot of conversations that a lot of people don't have to have, but these
Yeah.
men had to have that conversation in, what was it, 1964, I think it was said, or 1963, and here we are 60, almost 60 years later, and those conversations still have to be had. There are a lot of
And you
times
know
where a
what?
group of men won't have to have that conversation.
Yeah.
They don't get to just enjoy. They have to start thinking, how do we raise up an entire group of people with the money that I have and the fame and the sway that I have in society? Because not a lot
Yeah.
of people do at this time.
Yeah. And for whatever it's worth, I think this movie isn't just important from the context that we're talking about it, but even just thinking about, leadership in general, right? Like what you just mentioned, right? Like you have this one man, and regardless of if you believe in what Malcolm X stood for or you didn't, I know a lot of his ideals were more radical than say Martin Luther King, but just the idea of saying, we can do this tonight, or we can sit here and talk about how we're going to overcome some of these issues that we can overcome. And that takes a lot of strength to tell the face of the NFL, the champion, one of the most famous singers to ever walk the earth, say, you know what, we're not partying tonight. We need to sit down and talk about these issues and what we can do to overcome them. So I thought that was just a powerful message on leadership and making difficult decisions and standing up for what you believe in. And I just think, like you said, overall, it's a timely movie, timely message.
My favorite, I guess, segment of the movie by far was watching kind of that sparring match between Malcolm X and Sam Cooke.
Yeah,
You want to talk about some intensity and
yeah,
asking bigger questions, and the bit about Malcolm kind of driving home the fact that Bob Dylan is writing these songs when he doesn't have to, about certain movements, and looking out for the poor and the non-privileged and all of that stuff. And Sam Cooke is, he's singing about love and some more
right.
poppier things. So watching that match, it made me feel uncomfortable because I was like, man, he's got a point. I feel bad for Sam Cooke. And then he turned it right back around on him. So Muhammad Ali wasn't part of that conversation, but that was an emotional boxing match, I would say, because, and for that, it was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, yeah, and I would have to agree. Their parts in the movie were probably my favorites. I think they had the two strongest performances, and it's just one of those things where you feel like they're both right. Like no one, like either they're both wrong or they're both right, right? Like there's a little bit of both in
I was going
each.
to say, and there's a little bit, they're both kind of wrong and both right, you know?
Right, and no one's perfect, right?
Yep.
Everyone's always gonna make mistakes. No one is always 100% right or 100% wrong. There's consequences to everybody's actions, and the last part of the movie, I can't remember the quote exactly, but it essentially talked about how Malcolm X was a martyr, but he was okay with being a martyr as long as it was because of the causes, the what did he say? The fight for oppression, or I can't remember the exact quote, but essentially, I'm okay with being a martyr as long as it's for me fighting for what I believe in. It was essentially what the quote was about. And what was most powerful is that right underneath that, it showed that he died 2 days later. I'm assuming after giving that quote. Um, and that's just a timely message for me. So um, I love the movie. I think Joey really enjoyed the movie. I
Totally loved it.
didn't
Good job, Regina King. Excellent
yeah,
work.
yeah, I didn't think it was a perfect movie, but I think overall it was timely. It was a movie that we needed to watch at this moment in time with everything that's going on.
It's a
So, what
nice,
did
quiet little break away from blockbusters and action,
yeah,
and just a nice adult night
yeah,
to watch something
yeah, and
serious for a little
sometimes,
bit.
and I think those are the best ones, right? Like sometimes you just need a movie like that frame to frame where we are as a society. So, what did you all think about One Night in Miami? We loved it. We thought it was a timely movie. Please let us know what you all thought about the movie in the comments below. And until next time.